No one has more state pride than New Mexicans. The vibrant culture, bold flavors, unique history, and dramatic landscapes under our Zia sun are like no other. And the people of New Mexico are a rare breed. As diverse as we are, together we breathe life and soul into this high desert land. A land that promises adventure. I'm Michael Newman, and as your host, I'll be taking you with me as I seek out the best the land of enchantment has to offer.
New Mexico, it feels like home to me. It feels so true. It's time well spent when I spend it with you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of New Mexico True Television. I'm your host, Michael Newman. Just about everyone knows Santa Fe and Taos as the North's cultural meccas, but what about all the hidden gems in between? Whether you take the high road or the low road, the history and culture of this region are as deep and diverse as its landscapes, meaning we're in for an incredible adventure. Just an hour and a half north of Albuquerque on New Mexico Highway 30 are the Puyé Cliff Dwellings. Carved out of a cliff formed by the Jemez Caldera volcanic eruption more than 1 million years ago, these ancient dwellings are part of a larger network of ruins you will find here on the Pajarito Plateau. As the ancestral home of the Santa Clara Pueblo, the descendants of the dwellings hold a very strong spiritual connection to the site and offer tours to share their history with you.
So this whole area is actually all known as the Pajarito Plateau, which is where the volcano came and formed this whole area.
And people lived in these little crevices throughout the whole mesa.
Yes, the whole mesa goes 3 miles all the way around, and there's caves around the entire mesa. On this south face alone, there's 750 caves. So there's thousands of caves here.
Thousands of caves in this one piece of rock.
In this one big piece of rock.
It's like a major city.
Yes,
you know?
definitely. It's like your official first apartment complexes.
Yeah.
Your caves were your winter home just because this volcanic rock absorbs the heat in the daytime, as you can feel how warm it is right here.
Yeah.
And then you lived up on the mesa top in the summertime because you have the breeze. So you just had a summer home and a winter home.
Oh, so that's been happening for a long time.
So pretty wealthy to have 2 houses, a summer home and a winter home.
Yeah.
What they would have used to actually get into the caves were hand and footholds. So it was basically like rock climbing.
Just rock climbing to get home every day.
So climbing up, getting onto the roof, and then going down. And their enemies here were the Navajos, Apaches, Comanches, and the Utes. So if any of those specific nomadic groups ever came and tried invading the people here, they would have had to use those hand and footholds to actually get to the people.
Okay.
The only way that they could use those is they had to know the pattern. There was a strategy on using them. So they had to know which hand went up first and which leg would go up first. If they didn't know this strategy, they were stuck on the side of the cliff.
It's like a password. We continue along the cliff trail and take note of the petroglyphs above. Those aren't the only remaining traces of art you will find here, though. And this is a little pottery shards.
At one point, their people were basket makers.
Okay.
The women also entwined their own little different design to be able to identify their pottery pieces. So if they ever got misplaced, they would have known which pot was theirs just because of the designs that they did draw on them.
And were these like hunter-gatherer peoples?
It was more agriculture is what they grew with. What we call the 3 sisters are the corn, bean, and squash.
Okay.
So they had 5 fields. Their biggest field would have been on this south face.
Okay.
And they would have had other fields located on this west, east, and north side. They did do a little bit of hunting, small game, squirrels, rabbits, birds.
And what does Puyé stand for?
Puyé means in our language, which is Tewa, means where the rabbits gather or where the rabbits meet.
Oh, okay. Oh, look at that.
So if you step up, you can stick your head inside.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so you can see it's about 10 to 15 degrees cooler in the back. And then you can see the black fire smoke up on top. And then there's a ventilation to your left. And then there's a ventilation up on the top there. So you can kind of feel the circular ventilation actually airing out the structures.
It's like a completely different climate inside.
Yes, definitely. So this cave is a really good example on how big the structures would have actually been. You can see the caves aren't that tall. Females are between the height of about 3 to 4 feet tall, and males are between 4 to 5 feet tall. So they weren't the tallest people here. Their average lifespan was between 35 to 40. The #1 cause of death here was their teeth. They would use the grinding stones to actually grind down some of the corn, foods, anything that they needed a nice fine powder feel. Once you eat it, you're gonna get particles of the rock into your food. So when you eat it, it's gonna help chip down your teeth. Once your teeth are gone, it's gonna lead to starvation or infection hits your bloodstream. That's a very painful death. So their teeth were the #1 cause of death here.
Interesting. Yeah.
So they didn't grow too tall or live too long. So you had a short, quick lifespan back then.
Yeah. No doubt, life was difficult in those times, and drought ultimately drove the Puebloans from this mesa down to current-day Santa Clara Pueblo. But it's amazing to see the traces of the life that once existed here. Keep an eye out for pottery shards as you walk the trails, but be sure to leave any you find on site. Don't forget to check out the Visitor Center, formerly a Harvey House, and the only one built on Pueblo land. Hiking the dwellings may work up an appetite. Stop at El Paragua in Española for Mexican food that has been delighting locals for more than 50 years. Coming up, a place where chili is as sacred as the soil from which it grows. And now from the pages of New Mexico Magazine. Just over half an hour north of Santa Fe off New Mexico 76, you will find the village of Chimayo. Chimayo has become synonymous with the sacred earth on which the village is built. And every year, thousands of people make the pilgrimage to the Santuario de Chimayo for its healing properties. But just as many people make the trek to El Rancho de Chimayo, which may be considered the hearth and home of this community. More than 50 years of heritage New Mexican cooking have earned this restaurant the James Beard Foundation's America's Classics Award. And Florence Jaramillo, or Miss J as the locals know her, is the woman behind it all.
So what was the initial inspiration for having a restaurant in Chimayo? Was there a significance there? Because everything in Chimayo is known for its history. You know, everything's been here since the 1700s, and there's a lot of history in this fertile valley. Was there something about Chimayo that called to you guys to have a restaurant here?
Mr. Jaramillo was born and raised in this house. People were coming up here to go to the church or just a different area. It was so pretty, and that's what we did. And we moved back in 1963. I used to cook a lot for nothing at home. And always people coming over, and I liked it. I really enjoyed cooking. And I thought there should be a restaurant someday that you could smell the food cooking, and people would come to our house. This is what we wanted to do. This would be our house, and you're coming as our guest. Even though you're a customer, you're our guest, and that's how we wanted everybody to feel. It wasn't just another restaurant, and everything is homemade, everything is from scratch, everything are old recipes, and that was our dream. And it took a little longer. It took about 5 years before we opened, but it was a real big struggle.
Wow.
Because the banks thought, oh my God, you're in the middle of nowhere. We had no experience in the business. We were just struggling from, I was working. I went to work full-time in accounting in Santa Fe to help. And it was hard. We couldn't get deliveries for the first 3 or 4 years. I would come home almost every night from Santa Fe from picking up supplies in a car. And so I think the joy I had is when that banker called me for a reservation and I couldn't give him one.
Wow, yeah, totally. It is kind of off the beaten path. You kind of have to know where you're going to get here. But when you get here, it's just this ambiance that it's a home. You're walking into someone's home, you're sitting in the living room, you're going to eat in the kitchen, like you have that vibe, and you think
good. That's what we try. But that's what we wanted. We wanted you to come and have dinner with us, and a lot of people became our friends.
Miss J's smile is as warm as the food. No wonder she's the matriarch of this community. Speaking of warm, the chili packs just the right punch, and so do the cocktails. A favorite among locals, the Chimayo cocktail with apple cider and tequila. Take the time to pop out back to check out the amazing pottery gallery housed in the Old Horse Corral. And don't forget to pay a visit to the revered chapels of the Santuario and ask about the dirt of El Pocito. For more great stories like this from New Mexico Magazine, visit newmexico.org. Where to get your art fix in Rio Arriba County? Stay tuned. To see more of New Mexico True TV, visit our YouTube page, youtube.com/Visit New Mexico. An hour north of Santa Fe on New Mexico 554 North, you will find the town of El Rito. I'm headed here for the El Rito Studio Tour, where every autumn, the artists of the village open their homes and studios for visitors to get a personal glimpse into their life and work. From homegrown locals to transplants to the area, an eclectic and vibrant community of artists call El Rito their home, and I'm about to meet one of them. The breeze from outside animates paper sculptures hanging from the ceiling, and vessels, books of paper, collages, and drawings line the walls. I have officially entered the world and creative sphere of Julie Wagner.
So Julie, I love your personal creative space here with this beautiful lighting and all your artwork behind us. So I'm wondering, what is the inspiration for some of your art? Because there seems to be a running theme throughout everything that I'm looking at.
A lot of it is the land around here and the plants and the bugs and the animals. And I'm really interested in the flow of water, the flow of wind, the flow of energy. So a lot of what I do is based on that.
So what is it about the natural world that inspires you?
I'm really interested in how things grow and how things decay. And I'm also really interested in metamorphosis. So bugs that start out as larvae or something and then become a butterfly. I like using text as texture. So you can't really read it, but I like using words. I'll get an idea and it seems like it's meant to go in a book somehow. The book is the best form to put it in, or it's a piece of sculpture, or it's a drawing, or a painting.
Right. I'm always interested to hear the artist's perspective because everyone's process is different.
And Julie's process evokes a mindfulness in nature. No wonder her space feels so serene. From here, I decide to head further into town to the home of Cipriano Vigil, which could second as a museum of musical instruments. Cipriano has amassed a collection ranging from the commonplace to the obscure, countless audio treasures lining the tables and dangling from above. Originally self-taught, Cipriano has become a renowned folklorico musician with a doctorate in ethnomusicology, whose greatest passion is preserving and sharing the music of northern New Mexico.
What makes this guitar more special than the other ones?
It's the one that gets beat up.
Yeah, this one you allow to get
Right.
beat up.
I play this when I have little concerts, little gigs for everyday use. In a sense, this is the one that I...
This is the workhorse.
Right.
Well, yeah, you don't have a shortage of options when it comes to instruments.
Right, exactly.
So tell me, like, how did this come to be, all these different...
Well, I started off first with a guitar, then I got a mandolin, and I ended up getting a violin. I had this problem that if I was passing by a pawn shop where there were musical instruments or a music store, I had to go in there. Sometimes I disappear from my wife. She'd find me in the pawn shop, and I ended up collecting instruments.
Yeah.
And I wanted to teach myself how to play every instrument that I could get my hands on.
And not only play them, but master them. The man can even help a saw find its musical voice. This is depicting the wailing of La Llorona. He could have called it a day after that, but Cipriano breaks out instruments spanning the ages, and from all corners of the world. Down to the strumsticks he has crafted himself.
And this one is a Cheng from China.
Oh, that's what you're saying.
It has 30-some holes. I guess you have to be Chinese to be able to play this. You can edit, right?
Okay, so the man's human. Beyond his prize collection in this room, though, are instruments he has created for others. Stacked to the ceiling are cigar boxes which will be transformed into guitars, the sales of which help him continue his education programs in local schools. Bravo, Cipriano. Taking a left down the road, I reach the home of Nicholas Herrera and Paula Masters Travis. Paula has a knack for recycling found objects as well.
So how does, working with salvaged materials kind of inform your process? Because you don't know how it's all going to come together.
Finding the pieces to begin with is kind of a treasure hunt. I get excited if I see something that I might be able to work with. I am working with furniture that basically people have discarded. And from that point, then I We'll strip it down and refinish the wood, and then I take leather belts. And I'm weaving the leather belts to make new upholstery for all of the items.
As they say, one man's trash, another woman's treasure.
Exactly.
Nothing is left to waste. You will see the scraps from the belts become cuff bracelets, and our photographs find their way onto coasters as well as the walls. Just on the other side of this wall, though, are Nick's iconic retablos. In the tradition of a santero, but with a contemporary voice, Nick has carved out a niche here in El Rito, literally.
My family has been here 5 generations. This building was built in the 1880s. My grandfather built it when he got married before World War I, and then he went to fight in France.
So like this property and the history on here kind of inspires the art too, I would think.
Well, I started very much with the old traditional retablos. Those are called retablos.
Right.
And then I turned into doing something like this. This is called mestizo.
Okay.
Mestizo is my blood. We have the Mexican side, we have the Apache side, we have the Spanish side. So that's my blood right there.
Right.
I'm just trying to keep a lot of the tradition alive for the next generation.
Although I've only met a handful of the nearly 20 artists here, I feel like I got to know each of them and their work on a more personal level. Before I head out of town though, I cruised by to check out the compound of building and sculptures designed by Larry Sparks. Adorned with license plates and found objects, they form a salvage wonderland of whimsy and cool on the mesa. Quintessential El Rito. So pencil it in your calendar. The studio tour happens each year in early October. If you're feeling inspired, ask Cipriano if you can try a hand at one of his instruments. And see if you can get a table at the famed El Farolito restaurant in town, cash only.
Do you take a lot of pictures on your New Mexico travels? Well, if you do, show us by hashtagging New Mexico True on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Just 45 minutes north of Santa Fe off New Mexico 68, near the village of Alcalde, is the historic property Los Luceros. This ranch was originally founded in 1703 as an outpost and agricultural center by the Serrano brothers, who settled this area to obtain a land grant from the King of Spain. But the property is most notably recognized as the former home of Mary Cabot Wheelwright. I've booked a tour of the property with its site manager, CJ, to learn how it evolved from a Spanish outpost to the residence of a Yankee heiress.
From the Serrano family, one of the Serrano daughters married a Lucero, hence the name Los Luceros, or the Luceros. And that name pretty well stuck. It stayed in the Lucero family for many years until the early 1920s, when they lost the place to receivership. In 1923, Mary Cabot Wheelwright bought the place. Mary Cabot Wheelwright came from a shipping family in the Northeast, but had visited San Gabriel Dude Ranch, which was an establishment just south of here that catered to Easterners with money. And they would come out here to experience the West. And as many others did during that time and still do, fell in love with the place. And she held the property until 1958 when she passed away. But in the process of living here, got very close to the Navajo culture, met an individual by the name of Hostine Cloth, a Navajo medicine man. He helped her develop an appreciation for Navajo art, their songs, their stories, and she began to collect those things because she knew even at that time that if something wasn't done, much of their culture would be lost. And she collected enough material to actually start the Wheelwright Museum of the American Indian in Santa Fe.
And so during that time, was she hosting other Easterners that came west? Or?
She actually did, and visitors of some note. Willa Cather visited here, the author of Death Comes to the Archbishop. Of course, everybody seems to have heard of D.H. Lawrence. Mabel Dodge Lujan. George O'Keeffe, of course, was a common visitor. We also think that Ansel Adams visited here, although we don't know of any photographs that he made of the place at that time. During Mary Cabot's time, they raised cattle here. The cowboys were employed. A traditional kind of cowboy atmosphere, if you will, surrounded them, plus an immersion in the native culture that was here. And so all of that combined with a beautiful property served to attract them.
Yeah, it was just a hotbed right in the middle. You
Yeah,
get everything.
that's where things were happening. It was an in place. And in those days, when you came for a visit, you stayed like 2 weeks. And so, you know, all of them had an opportunity to sort of absorb the atmosphere and enjoy the beauty of the site. And if the walls could talk,
I imagine.
you could spend hours listening to what they had to say.
Right.
Because you know that there were some great conversations in here.
And so even when I'm looking now, there's a lot of relics. Are these original relics from that time period?
It's hard hard to say. There were so many owners over the years, particularly in that Anglo period. The furniture and accoutrements are a mixture of the influence of all those people. The piano here in the Grand Sala is said to have come from the Mary Cabot era, when it was supposed to have been a gift from John D. Rockefeller.
There's a story to go with every room of this home, so we head out to explore more of the hacienda. After touring the entirety of the Casa Grande, we make our way to the 18th century chapel before heading out to the apple orchards and farm.
As you turn off the main road and start down the hill into the valley, when you cross the Acequia Madre, the Mother Ditch, the world changes. It truly is a jewel in northern New Mexico.
It is a gem indeed. To visit the rancho, call ahead to make an appointment. Aside from private tours, the property hosts events and workshops and even an apple harvest. For a romantic or quiet weekend getaway, inquire about the guest home on the property. We're glad you could join us on this trip through one of the most enchanting pockets of our state, where the past and present intermingle and the hospitality of its people is as inviting as this setting. With that being said, what are you doing next weekend?